Hello everyone, my name is Rory Paddock, 4picksfromthepaddock.co.uk. I'm just doing a really quick video that's something that's come to light in the ROA magazine. In regards to, obviously, the decline in ownership and owners having a few gripes in regards to the upkeep and maintenance and the cost involved with ownership at a much smaller level. We're not talking about the Ballydoyle, the Godolphin, the major Qatar owners, or any of the even major syndicates in terms of owners groups and so on and so forth. So, without further ado, let me bring up what we have here. So, if you can see there on the left-hand side of the screen, this was what was published, and I will read it as best as I can. You can't see it all there, but you'll be able to get the gist with what I read. So, dear ROA team, my wife and I have 3 racehorses in training. In July, the training fees were £9,535.08, including VAT. Weatherby's costs were an additional £1,036.38, including jockeys' fees, entry fees for 4 races, and other entry fees that were not declared. The total income was £226.26 prize money for 1 placed horse. The net cost is £10,345.20, of which we will receive a VAT refund on the training fees. Each race cost us over £500 in horse transport, trainer expenses, entry fees and jockey fees. We also have a retired 9-year-old gelding and a 4-year-old mare that never ran, who is now in foal. In normal economic circumstances, we may have considered the purchase of a yearling, but this is totally out of the question, and there will be mounting pressure to reduce our responsibilities. We regard the horses as part of the family, and would not put them through the sale ring, not knowing their fate. The racing industry must appreciate that many owners at grassroots level will leave racing, as the costs, compared to enjoyment and prize money, cannot be justified. Racecourses do their best to provide a service to owners, and our experiences at Kempton, Lingfield, Sandown, Bath and Salisbury have all been similar. The staff try their best, but the overall experience is sterile and disappointing. This probably accounts for the low turnout of owners. We fear we're seeing a widening divide between the rich owners and those at grassroots level, whereas many wealthy owners will not be affected by reduced prize money and the current economic downturn. The average small owner certainly will. Our suggestion is for owners to be helped towards the cost of sending a horse to the races. Training fees will depend on where the horse is trained, and some savings can be made, if needed, by finding a lower cost trainer. The race day costs are, to a large extent, fixed. The beneficiaries of all races are the betting industry, racecourses, trainers, jockeys and staff, as funded by owners who receive a very poor return on their investment. This is a worrying situation that could, left unchecked, lead to racecourses losing smaller trainers, going out of business, and owners leaving the sport. And obviously it's sent in anonymously or printed anonymously, so on. Now, with that being said, there's a few points I want to bring up that has been mentioned in that anonymous letter. More importantly, the idea or the notion that buying or owning a racehorse is an investment. It's not. It is not, unless you are one of the big boys, and even higher than that, the upper echelons, where you can breed and you have a massive breeding operation such as Godolphin or Ballydoyle, racehorse ownership is not an investment. Anyone who's watching this, let me get this through to you. It is a hobby. It is a very expensive one, but it is a hobby. If you go into owning a racehorse thinking it is going to earn you money, stop. Don't do it, because the chances of that are so slim. Now, do not get me wrong, I would do all I could, because as a racehorsing fan, a racehorse enthusiast, first and foremost, the last thing I want is to see this sport buried or monopolised by big owners. But if you are approaching ownership with an idea that you are going to end up with the next enable, you're going to win multiple Group 1s, or even top class handicaps, whereby your horse will pay for itself, never mind any sort of profit, then you are sorely mistaken. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not safe and secure, such as property or some sort of stock exchange thing. It's a hobby, and you do it for the love of it. That should be your first notion and foremost goal, that you are doing this because you love it. You expect to lose money. And if you go in with any preconceived idea that it's anything different, then you are going to end up being disappointed. Now, like I've said, this is the biggest misconception with owning a racehorse. It shouldn't ever be looked at as an investment. Like I said, it is a hobby. Like I said, it's a very expensive one, but a hobby nonetheless. Now, if you imagine, just to go through the facts, that a massive percentage of 2-year-olds never even get to the racecourse, then of that fraction, imagine the percentage of those that end up with career-shortening injuries. Then of what's left, a percentage of them that just have short careers might race once, twice, 3 times, and they're not got outfit, or they don't like to race, or whatever it may be. They're animals at the end of the day. Then of that even short percentage, there's an even shorter percentage that actually ever grab prize money. Then the even smaller percentage of that ever win a race. Now that could be a claiming level all the way up to Group 1. Any race in between. You then take account of all the above factors, and you're considered very fortunate to own a horse that ever wins a race. We're not even talking about a top race. We're talking about any race at any level. And even then, do you think that one race win is going to cover its cost for a year? If it wins a claiming race on the all-weather on a Tuesday afternoon? No. You know, you'd be fortunate for it to even cover the costs of a couple of months, if that, of training fees and expenses. As I've already mentioned, the likes of Ballydoyle and Godolphin will rarely make profit from their prize money alone. For every Guineas or Derby winner that they send out, and they have, there's 50 to 100 horses that they have that may never win their maiden. And they all cost exactly the same to keep, exactly the same to send to the races, exactly the same to hire a jockey, exactly the same in feed and vet's bills and so on, or there or thereabouts. So yes, of course, we see the big powerhouses, you know, winning Group 1s after Group 1s. But equally, and you know, earlier as example with what I do here at PFTP, you know, I gave a Racing Post nap. It was a Ballydoyle horse. It went off at 17-2. It didn't win. It finished 3rd from last. And I think it'd have 5 races so far and had yet to win. That doesn't get the press. Now, I understand ownership, and especially if you're selling ownership, you've got to obviously, you know, marketing, you've got to highlight the positives. But you also take into effect as well that these powerhouse yards, the likes of the Ballydoyles, the likes of Godolphin, they will make their money by having massive breeding operations, and whereby the majority of their horses are bred in-house, and therefore they don't have the initial purchase cost. They've got brood mares and superstar stallions at the ready. The best way I would say is to look at it in this way. Would you ever buy a product? So you go into the shops and you're buying whatever it may be, just product A. But would you buy this product if it may never work, may need constant repairs, may only work once or twice, may only do part of the job when it does work, and is unlikely to do the job to the best of its ability? And then, would you consider that purchase of that product a sound investment? Of course you wouldn't. We'd all love to own a winner, but it's a lottery, and the going rate for a ticket is bloody expensive. Now, although it's a bit old now, I've dragged up stats from 2017, but the average sum spent by owners on keeping a horse in training, this isn't the cost of the horse, this is just keeping a horse in training, was around not the average cost, the overall cost, was 290 million in 2017. Prize money, however, was 137.6 million. So that's that. So you know already the likelihood is it's going to be a loss of over 50%. Also take note that in 2017, 30% of all owners received no prize money whatsoever in the calendar year. And that's not even to say that the other 70% made profit. There'll be a percentage of owners that may have picked up less than £1,000 for that year. They could have had a place like we've seen in this letter, where it's a couple of £100. Again, the average cost of keeping a flat horse is around £23,000 a year. And the average return on owning a horse that raced in, it's very specifically stats, that raced in Class 5 handicap, so it ignores the big boys, the Group 1s. But the average return on owning a horse racing in Class 5 handicaps was a return of 8 pence to every pound spent. So you are instantly, the average is a 92% loss on investment. Now, we all know you can pick up a racehorse, unfortunately, they're starting to become 10 a penny because there are less owners, but cheaply nowadays. But the upkeep is where the major expense is, and I understand. I mean, for example, I was quoted when looking for a trainer, I think it was around £100 to £150 as an additional fee for whenever the trainer was to attend. You would pay the trainer this amount of money, I'm not going to name names, £100 to £150, I can't remember off the top of my head, for them to attend the race meeting with you, with that horse. Now, maybe naively, but I thought the cost of training ensured that you would want to be there for my horse, you would look after my horse, and you would be doing your job, and that's what I was paying you for. Not pay me an extra £100 just to keep you company and be there at the races with you for your racehorse. But apparently, in some instances, that's the case. And equally, I don't think it's an issue with the trainers as such. I think it's a collective issue. It's easy to blame prize money. But at the end of the day, it's supply and demand. If there's not as many owners sending horses, and there's not as many, companies that are willing to invest in racing and sponsor races, and so on and so forth, everyone plays a collective part. And it's easy to point the finger. And I don't have the answer. I wish I did, and everything would be fantastic. But I would plead to anyone who watches this video, if you are buying a racehorse with the idea that you're going to own the next Frankel, Slimton on. But even less than that, if you are buying it to think that you are going to make your money back, then you're very, very fortunate if you do. Now, don't get me wrong. You see on TV massive syndicate ownerships that have had a big race winner. Lovely to see. Everyone sort of, that have your taxi drivers all the way down. I love that. I would love to be able to have, and I've toyed with the idea of having a picks from the paddock syndicate to give, the guys that aren't earning millions, that don't earn thousands to spend on a racehorse, that don't have thousands to spend monthly, and that me included. I wish I did have so much disposable income that I could have a big string of 20, 30 horses. It'd be the dream, but I don't. But it doesn't mean that you don't love racing any less. And that's great to see. But for some, it's just an understanding that racehorse ownership, I could tell you 300, 400, 500 different things that I'd say you've got a better chance of getting a return in. I'd even say buy 100 lottery tickets, because the chance of you even getting a tenner back is probably okay compared to racehorse ownership, where 30% get absolutely nothing year on, year out. I'd love to know your thoughts, your opinions on this. I just saw it pop up on social media and I just had to say something. Racehorse ownership isn't an investment. Do it because you absolutely love it.